Hey guys, John here. Today I'm going to teach you how to make this clean bass sound in Vital. Alright, so let's dive into this. So for the effects section, let's turn everything off and let's take a look at the oscillator section. So I'm using two oscillators here. They're going to be the basic shape sine wave. And the first one is going to be no change in octave or pitch or anything like that. But we do want to go into the edit here, and I did add a few extra harmonics here just to kind of give it a little bit more of a, so it's not just a pure sine tone, that has a couple extra sine waves to it. So that's kind of a very important part to keep in mind. The second oscillator is kind of the same thing, but I just added just the second one here because this second oscillator is going to be used to FM the first one. So this is down one octave. I have the level down here. I don't know why that was up a little bit, but this should be down all the way. And on the first one, we click this drop down here and we want to go FM to from oscillator 2. And this section here is kind of dials in like what you want your bass to sound like. So all the way off. As soon as we bring that up, bring those drums down a little bit here. So that FM is using really to get the tone out of this guitar. I kind of almost envision an analog type of bass, nothing like digital or anything like that. But if you actually had a bass guitar, this is kind of what it would sound like. And then the envelope is actually very important as well because the bass string first hits and then it kind of dives down a little bit, sustains for a little bit, and then I don't have the release too long because with low end like this, you don't really want a long release because it can get really muddy really fast. So if you want exact values, I had the attack at 0.011, no hold, decay is 1 second, sustain 0.645, and the release is 0.089. So another thing to keep in mind, I do have my voices at 1, so if I hit multiple notes, it doesn't really become a problem. Because you don't want to hit 1,000 notes on a bass patch, and it's just going to sound awful. Another thing to keep in mind is the phase here, in this phase section here, I have this all the way at 0, I have this one at 0, and the randomization I also have at 0, because I want both waveforms starting at the same time. I don't want anything random. I kind of want this very controlled situation here. So that's pretty much it in the sound generation process. Now we go to the effects tab. So the first thing I have is a compressor. I didn't do a multiband because I felt like I didn't need it. I just did a single band here. And here's it with and without. Now really this is kind of to taste depending on how much of the top end, there's not too much you want to squash, but just a little bit there. Maybe do some upward compression a little bit, and that's kind of very, very to taste here. And the next section is going to be the EQ here. So a lot of the where is it exactly here? This cutoff is maybe 117 hertz. I kind of took out a little bit. This is kind of depending on the key that you're going to play. So definitely kind of play around with the cutoff because this is going to be taking out a lot of that mud that kind of makes the bass just not really defined. Because you do want the low end, you do want some of the highs a little bit, but you don't want that low end mud that kind of just clutters up your whole patch. Because like by itself, it can sound okay, but once you start adding more things to it, it's going to really become a problem. So this is going to be helpful for you. Makes it a little bit more clear. And I did add a little bit of distortion here, and it doesn't necessarily take away the clean aspect. It kind of just gives a little bit more harmonics to kind of define the sound a little bit more. Now I went with soft clip. As you can see, the drive is at 11.70 dB, and I have the mix at 0.136, and this is just a little bit to taste because as you can see now, I'll give you a little demonstration. It's easy to get carried away with this distortion. See, at that point, it doesn't necessarily sound like it's very clean. And And the very last thing that is a little small tidbit to remember, since we're trying to emulate a string type of sound, when you hit a string at first, it's gonna start vibrating a little bit out of pitch at first, and then it sets into its core pitch. So that's what this first LFO is doing. It's going down pretty quick and then resting. And I have this here on the fine tune, as you can see, for each hit there. And that is exactly what is it, LFO 1 at 2. So just by itself here, let's bypass this real quick. Let's give it a little more, so you can really hear what we're actually doing. So it's going to be this type of effect. But we want to kind of dial it in so it's kind of hidden, but it's still a little bit there. And we can see it on the spectrum here as well, these little graphs here going down, these little lines there. And then with the other oscillator back in, and the drums. There's a little too much distortion here. And then again, this FM knob here is really where you can dial in the tonality of your bass. The higher you go, it's going to seem like you're going to lose a little bit more low end, as we can watch on the spectrum analysis. Now it's going to get much brighter here. And that is to taste, so definitely play around with that knob as well and kind of dial in the sound of your bass. But that's basically it in a nutshell. Pretty simple bass patch to make, but there's a couple things you do want to pay attention to. So hopefully you learned something, and we'll look forward to the next video.